Welcome back to another episode of the Saints Squad Show. I'm your host, Dylan Sanders of Saints Wire Pelicans Roundtable, and I knew it. The black helmets and the black uniforms were always going to look good together.
I'm Darian Gray of Who Dat Dish, and it was nice while it lasted.
This is former Saints wide receiver Lance Moore, and as you could tell, I'm upset.
It's the Saints Squad. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad Show, starting now.
Howdy, Who Dat Nation, and welcome back to the Saints Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And now the number one podcast sports network in the nation. Man, we climbed up the rankings, something that New Orleans doesn't do very often, but we did it with Locked On. Thanks for making us your first listen. Every Sunday and Wednesday, we have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today, we're going to be diving into the game that it was one of the games of all time, as I would say. It was disappointing on offense, on defense, definitely on special teams. We'll get into all of that. We're going to break it down with our instant reactions, go into the offense, go into the defense, and then we'll end it on a nice note with the players of the game and maybe what we can look forward to the rest of the season. And but first, today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, let's start off with our instant reactions, and this is also where I kind of grouped in our the Blake Grupe talk because I know it's going to happen, but it doesn't really fit into offense or defense that much. So let's just get into our overarching reactions. Let's start off with Darian.
This felt like a reality check. This felt like we were all high going into the bye week, and then you have the bye week. You get a week to feel good about yourself, and then you come out, and it felt like a lot of the things that plagued New Orleans plagued them again, mostly red zone concerns. That was probably the most frustrating aspect of the game. I think that Lance we're going to give him his ISO moment in segment 2 it is. That really falls in line with the red zone opportunities, with the once you get inside the 30 opportunities, where New Orleans was moving the ball down the field early, but 2 missed field goals by Blake Grupe, in my opinion, not only changed what the final score looks like, I think it changes how the game felt while it was still going on. If you get those 2 field goals in the first half, now you're only going down 3 points. It looks a lot different. It feels a lot different. The game feels like it's within reach, and you call it different. But you know what? I wasn't happy with what Kellen Moore did when he got inside the 30. I thought there was too much reliance on Taysom Hill. I thought that there was a abandoning of Devin Neal specifically on that drive where you got on a goal-to-goal situation, and I didn't see him at all. I'll try to give it a little bit of positivity before I hand it off to Lance because, quite frankly, there's going to be a lot of negativity to go around today. I did like that I saw Devin Neal, or excuse me, not Devin Neal. Sorry, guys. I really like Devin Neal. I just want to talk about him. But Devon Vele used his size a couple times on 2 plays that felt like they were specifically called for him. It felt like they wanted to use his size on the interior, which we've been waiting for. And then secondly, on a pass that was almost intercepted by Tyler Shuck, where you saw Vele's size and strength be able to rip away the ball from the defender. So, I thought that was a positive thing when we've been looking for Vele for the couple of weeks since Rasheed was traded, and especially after the Cooks release.
Yeah, I would agree. It's always really annoying whenever a team comes out of a timeout and looks off. They didn't look prepared. Like, what were you discussing in that moment? This is what you came up with. The same can be said whenever a team comes out of a bye week and looks exactly like they did today. I cannot believe that this was an out of bye week, off of a win performance from the team. They looked lost. They didn't know what they wanted to do, and then whatever plans they did make didn't work. They didn't adjust. It was ugly all around. Let's hear it.
Look, I'm not going to totally jump on a soapbox here. I'm not going to totally obliterate everybody that had on black and gold today. I'm just going to make 2 simple points beyond what you guys said, because I agree with everything that you guys said. Before we started, Dylan, you said Blake Grupe you don't really know where he fits in. He doesn't fit in on offense and defense. Well, he clearly doesn't fit in between the goalposts. That's my first point. My second point is during the telecast, they made mention several times, and then you guys obviously did too, about the red zone deficiencies, right? They got inside, I believe, at the end, inside Atlanta's 30-yard line 5 times with that last drive and only came out with 3 points to show for it. Well, the offense only came up with 3 points to show for it the entire game. It wasn't just in those red zone stops that they had. You can't win a game in the NFL with 3 points on offense. I don't care who you're playing against. It's just not possible. You're going to have several defensive touchdowns, not 1 or 2, like 3 or 4. You would have needed 4 defensive scores in this game to win. It's unacceptable. In this game, I know everybody's talking about Shuck or Ruiz or all these other guys. This game is 100% on Kellen Moore for multiple reasons. Obviously, the play calling was atrocious. And I understand he doesn't have the assets, I guess you could say, that he's had in Philadelphia and before that in Dallas. But he knows that. He knows what he needs to do to be able to move the football. He knows the plays to call to be able to get the offense going. He knows that he had 2 weeks to prepare for this Atlanta team. He did not have his team ready to play. I love the fact that the defense made some plays early, but where were they the rest of the game? I just don't know. Sure, pick 6, great. Sacks early in the game, great. Defensive PBUs and things like that, tackles for loss, great. As the game wore on and our offense was stinking it up, our defense started to stink it up too. That's on the head coach. It's not on the individual players. The coach has to have the players ready to play, and then the coach needs to put said players in position to be in the positions to have success. He failed.
Yeah,
it's what it is.
I think it's about as simple as that. Honestly, it's just like this team did not look ready to compete, ready to play an NFL game on Sunday, and that is I mentioned already, especially annoying coming out of a bye week. It's annoying at any point, but it really felt like this was a chance with a very easy schedule left to maybe get some wins, get some momentum, have a little bit and honestly, maybe it's saving them from themselves and getting that high pick, whatever it is, keeping that for now. But, you just want to see at least some wins with maybe something positive to take away. There's not a ton positive to take away from this game. Looking for the nice moments or the nice players. There was that one Devin Neal drive, Darian.
And then it wasn't. And then it wasn't. That's the problem, Dylan. I'm trying because I know everybody sees it on the right side of the screen. Too much Taysom Hill. We're going to get to it. So I'm trying not to get to it too much right now. But you mentioned the one favorable moment was that you had a Devin Neal drive until you decided to make it a Taysom Hill moment. Until you decided that on 4th down, screw Tyler Shuck, let's let Taysom Hill throw the football. It's one thing when you're going to do the Taysom Hill run. It's one thing, and Lance and I are very much so in agreement on how we feel about how that's been utilized this year, the effectiveness of it this year. But it's one thing where you're going to do literally his special play. But to let him throw the ball and have it dependent on the idea of, well, they won't see this one coming. Well, they did. They were a sound defense, and they saw it coming. The same way on that first drive, or not the first drive, but the drive where Mason Tipton got you in the red zone. You didn't have to get down there. You got in the red zone because Mason Tipton had a great return. You have first play, Taysom Hill. First play, Taysom Hill. Second play, I think they ran the ball. And then a 3rd down, a screen that only works if they don't see that coming. I didn't see the aggressiveness. After a Mason Tipton drive, to move this away from Taysom for a second, because we'll get back to it. After Mason Tipton gets you inside the 20 on a kickoff return, why are you not being more aggressive to get 7? I tweeted out, hey, Saints are in the red zone already, need 7. Didn't mean that 7. That's not 7 I was talking about, but we got it anyway, and they're going to do that. Then on 3rd down, you're not aggressive. It's like you were playing for 3, and Blake Grupe did what Blake Grupe has done throughout the season. the confidence that they have in him is not one that I share. It's one that is kind of confusing to me on how they have this confidence. If they still have it, that's going to be another indictment on Kellen Moore. The replacement is there. We have 6 games left. Let's see what Charlie Smith has. It's at that point. It was at the point where if they weren't going to kick another field goal with Blake Grupe if they didn't have to. They weren't going to, and they shouldn't have. And they shouldn't kick another Blake Grupe field goal for the rest of the year because Blake Grupe shouldn't be kicking any field goals for the Saints the rest of the year. I don't care if it's Charlie Smith. I don't care if you have to go for it on 4th down all the time. Be extremely aggressive on 3rd down. When you're ever in fringe field goal range, go for it on 4th. I don't care. The time is up. The time's been up. But now I feel like the time for ignoring it is way past due.
Well, sorry, Dylan. I just want to get in while he's talking about this. What type of accountability are you holding?
That's what I was going to go.
Like, what is the standard? Is the standard to make all your kicks for 3 games and then go back to the guy that was missing a lot of kicks early on in the year? Like, what are we doing? Would we let any other position fail so many times and keep their job? Like that to me is what happens in the next couple of days is going to be very, very telling. Now, obviously, we're in a rebuild. Obviously, like, as we're losing these games, and this one hurts because it's Atlanta, right? Like, if this was anybody else, I'd be sick, but not nearly as sick. Like, right. it just hurts more because it's the Falcons, who are not a good football team, mind you, who were without some really good players, mind you. But if there's not a move made, and look, I don't want to call for a guy's job, but if a guy is not performing and you have other guys that could be performing, then what are we doing?
Accountability. Yeah. Word of the week.
Well, it's a word of the past couple of years in New Orleans. We've seen it with everywhere on Airline Drive, is that they make the decision that needs to be made weeks after it should have been made. Like, we've seen it all the time. It's a losing culture building thing. If you're okay with mediocrity, if you show players that you're okay with mediocrity, where is the hustle or the need to get better right now? It's like, oh, well, you're rebuilding. You don't need to be good. You never start a rebuild until you start building that winning culture. If you never build that,
yes,
then it's not a rebuild. It's just settling at the bottom.
Yes. That feels like where it is. Let me not say that. Because I actually do feel like they are in a rebuild right now in this present moment. Maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, but it does feel like if you do not make a move for accountability's sakes to send a message to everybody else of what happens when you slack off, right? I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I feel like Alvin had a fumble and I didn't see Alvin for the rest of the game. Like I could be wrong, but or at least I didn't see him for a while. And that's Alvin Kamara. That's a star player. I mean, Blake Grupe, Alvin Kamara, what they've done for the franchise, who they are in their current place. If one can be held accountable, I just don't understand why the other. And sometimes you make an example of the higher person on the depth chart, someone who's, hey, this can happen to him. It can happen to anybody. But it just doesn't track. It doesn't follow if you do not follow it up with holding others accountable.
Yeah, but, it is. Yeah.
Tyler Shuck was okay.
He was all right.
I thought Tyler Shuck had some good moments.
Yeah, he didn't play, but I don't think Shuck played poorly. I think the lack of a consistent run game hurts him. I think the lack of playmakers on the outside hurts him. I think the lack of a vertical passing attack hurts him. I think the fact that he hasn't had a lot of reps in NFL games, when the pressure is kind of on him, you can see him get a little antsy. I mean, he was sacked several times, and he looks a little nervous when the pressure's coming. That's normal. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't love it. I would love to see less of it, but that to me is a sign of a rookie quarterback. It's not a sign of a guy that's incapable. It's not a sign of a guy who doesn't care. It's not a sign of a guy that has no potential, because he's shown plenty of potential. He made some good throws. He made some good plays with his legs. Sure, you'd love for him to not panic in the pocket from time to time. You'd love for him to kind of see where that pressure is coming from and maybe look to an outlet a little bit sooner. But look, I'm not going to say he played great, but I don't think he played poorly by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, he had a couple of turns. Go ahead, Dylan.
Well, I was going to say, while we were on Blake Grupe, I was looking this up just to see like how often does a guy, because now he has dipped below 70% field goal on his field goals this season. How often does a guy get at least 26 attempts and finish below 70? And it's happened 3 times since 2015. And those players were Steven Gostkowski, Brett Maher, and Greg Zuerlein. Steven Gostkowski and Greg Zuerlein, I think you get a pass. You get a down year. Mm-hmm. Brett Maher, that was his last season in Dallas and his last real season there. Blake Grupe is not a Gostkowski or a Zuerlein. So I just like people don't get this big of a leash. A big of a leash is what I was going to say.
100%. And all I was going to say is there was a couple of turnover plays that are part of the progression as well. I think what Lance really emphasized is the youth. It's not really a word associated with
growing pains. It's growing pains.
Growing pain. That's a better way to say it. I didn't want to say the age thing.
Inexperience.
Inexperience. Sure. Thank you. The inexperience and the growing pains. I think that those are good ways to describe it because it's his 3rd start. He's new in the NFL, and he had a couple of turnover-worthy plays, but it's not enough to jump on him. I want to see how he responds next week. That was a big thing for Kellen in the Saints in this year's training camp was how do Shuck respond when they have bad things happen. So I want to see how do you respond next week because it was rough. You were under a lot of pressure. James Pierce Jr. was very familiar with Tyler Shuck by the end of the day, and Shuck had a couple of balls that probably should have been turnovers, and they ended up being turnovers at the end of the day on that last pass. So I want to see how he bounces back and how he responds next week.
All right. Well, let's continue talking about the offense. We're going to start with Taysom Hill, and then we can also get into any more offensive comments that we want to coming up next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day. I decided to wear this hoodie. You decided to watch the Saints Squad show after this Falcons loss. But on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. If it takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on, let's go, Derek Queen's points, rebounds, and assists all in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Let's go to LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, let's go into the Taysom Hill talk, and I'm gonna start off with Lance here because he requested us to talk about Taysom Hill a lot. So this segment is yours, Lance. Where do you want to start off with?
I want to start off by saying I'm a Taysom Hill fan. I am. I don't dislike the guy. I don't dislike the player. I just think that what Kellen Moore is doing with Taysom Hill, specifically in this game, was unacceptable, was uncalled for, was forced, and honestly, to me, kind of sort of renders him incompetent. Why do I say that? We're talking all season about trying to get a look at these quarterbacks. You get down into the tight red zone and you take your quarterback, your rookie quarterback, and split him out wide at wide receiver. Not one time, but multiple times. You have a young running back that is showing great promise as the weeks progress. A kid who was balling. Every single time he touched the ball today, I feel like something positive was happening. You don't give him one single carry in the tight red? What are we doing? Oh, and by the way, we want to go to this Taysom Hill package that's been so great for so many years with multiple backups on our offensive line. Oh, and by the way, Cesar Ruiz is playing like a practice squad guard. So you're going to run the Taysom package not once, not twice, not 3 times. I'm sure, Dylan, you can look it up before I get to it. It was at least 5 or 6 times in the tight red. And the defense is not worried about it. They're just not. And I'll tell you what they're really not worried about. They're really not worried about Taysom Hill throwing the football in the tight red. You know why? Because in the tight red, everything happens faster, which means your throws have to be more accurate. There is no room for error down there in the red zone, in the tight red zone specifically. They're not worried about that. So they can cloud the line of scrimmage. They can bring as many guys into that box as they want to because they have zero fear of him play faking and then rolling and then throwing a ball. I just don't understand why we continue to it's going to be hard enough to win games with this roster as is right now. But now you're making it even more hard by doing things that your team probably is not capable of doing right now. If anything, if they really wanted to run the football down there, hand the ball to your running back. Get in a normal formation so that Atlanta can't have 14 guys in the box ready for the Taysom Hill run. They make it so hard. He's trying to outthink the defense or the defensive coordinator you're making it harder. You're not making it easier on your team. You're making it harder. The team is so one-dimensional when you get in there with Taysom Hill at quarterback. Everybody knows what's coming. There's no element of surprise. There's no creativity because it's the same stuff over and over and over and over again. Oh, and by the way, the pass play. You have one receiver, one guy. There's only one guy he could have thrown the ball to. That guy wasn't open. So even if that ball doesn't get batted away, he ain't catching it. And we'd be lucky if that ball's not picked off because the DB was undercutting the receiver as the ball was being delivered. So less trying to outsmart the defense. Let's play with our normal guys. And if you want to put Taysom Hill on the field, so be it. Put him at tight end. Put him at receiver. Honestly, I don't care if you put him at running back. I'd like to see Devin Neal more, but a regular play is going to have a higher chance at success than the Taysom Hill play with the roster currently as it's constructed.
Tell me if I'm wrong here, but Tyler Shuck would be more suited to run the Taysom Hill plays than Taysom Hill is at this point. Like he is bigger and seems to be faster and is a little bit stronger than Taysom Hill post many serious injuries. At this
Dylan,
point of his career.
Yes, Dylan. But guess who gets paid a lot of money to run the football? What position?
Taysom Hill.
The running back.
Too, apparently.
The running back. The running back's job is to tote that tater. And when you don't allow your running back to touch the rock down there, I can only imagine how Devin Neal feels. He's probably sick to his stomach.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even give me one carry down here? You don't give me an opportunity to finish a drive?
Taysom Hill was 0 for 2 through the air today, and 10 carries for 17 yards. The longest play was for 4 yards. So your best scenario, your best result for Taysom Hill was a 4-yard run, yet you went to it 10 times throughout the game. It doesn't make any it's one thing if it starts to work, and because those games have happened, and they've happened a lot against the Atlanta Falcons. Taysom Hill loves playing against the Atlanta Falcons. Not today. Because they saw it coming.
You know what also kind of shows a little bit of silly arrogance because there's no the predictability is there. So everybody knows what's coming. So that's essentially Kellen Moore saying, you know what? We're better than you up front. Stop this. You can't. And we weren't at all. Sure, he might have converted 1 or 2 first downs. That's what it's built for. It's not built for, hey, we're inside the 5. Let's run Taysom every single play so we can get a touchdown. Like that's not what the Taysom Hill package is designed for, in my opinion. At least not
at all.
In 2025, it's not.
What
Is it?
Yeah.
You know, we have a couple of people who feel a certain way about this, and I'm glad Lance was able to get his frustration off. I would like to step in.
I'm not done, but I'm gonna let you eat, Darian.
Thank you. Hey, listen. It's a buffet. All right, I'm gonna get my plate, probably 2-3 of them, and I'm gonna tell you, you go ahead and get you more too. This is an unfortunate truth. Kellen Moore clearly views Taysom Hill as a secondary rushing threat. If Alvin Kamara is to go out, they are going to lean on Taysom Hill the most. When you don't want to use Alvin Kamara, they are going to lean on Taysom Hill. I feel like they should lean on Devin Neal, but I do not believe that Kellen Moore looks at it that way. And I sit here and I talk after games. I do not call plays. So it doesn't matter what I think should happen. I have a couple of problems with the Taysom Hill package. Number one, there was a time when Taysom Hill, you knew what was going to happen. You just couldn't stop it. Even if it wasn't blocked great, you couldn't stop it. Those days are gone. Lance, you appropriately point out that they are basically saying my guys are better than you, while also saying you have a backup right tackle, you have a backup center, and you have a right guard who feels like a backup, or as you said, feels like a practice squad player. You do not have the alignment. You do not have the players to sit here and say, we are going to bully you when you know what is coming. You don't have that. And you don't have the Taysom Hill of 2-3 years ago, who when everybody knew it was coming, you could get a defensive end that hit Taysom Hill, and it didn't matter. He was going to get his 3 yards on 3rd and 2, right? Like those days are gone. Now, the other problem I have is when you use it. I mentioned it earlier. Mason Tipton gets you inside the 20-yard line on a kickoff return. In the first play, your quarterback is Taysom Hill. Why is it not Tyler Shuck? Why is Tyler Shuck not the quarterback on that play? All right, cool. That's one problem. You get in on 4th down, on 4th and goal. Why is Taysom Hill throwing the football and not Tyler Shuck? Why is that the case? Let's get into a more expanded view of that little play. What about 3rd and goal, 2nd and goal, 1st and goal? Why is Devin Neal never on the field? Not even a threat of Devin Neal. Why is that the case? Kellen Moore always says this is an evaluation year. Last question. I know I'm asking a bunch of rhetoricals, but what are you evaluating Taysom for? It's not for the future. You want to see him right now. I would evaluate Devin Neal for the future. I would evaluate Tyler Shuck for the future. And I feel like you're taking away critical moments from them. Devin Neal showed the ability to get tough yards on that drive. It's not like, oh, I think Devin Neal is a player who can grind it out. No, on that drive, Devin Neal showed the ability to fight through contact. That's where you would want a player who fights through contact. Why are you not using him? Why are you not trying to see what he can do in that situation? Tyler Shuck is my potential quarterback of the future. I would like to see how he operates in the red zone. I would like to see how he operates when the field is condensed. I would like to give him the opportunity to pass, fail, and learn from that as we move forward. That's not an experience that he has off that drive. Why is that the case? What is the value of Taysom Hill on these specific scenarios? Say what you want to say about Taysom Hill. I'll get very specific. I pointed out 3 situations that I feel like Taysom Hill was forced into the game and shouldn't have. I do not feel like it was beneficial for the short term, and I do not feel like it was beneficial for the long term. That's the problem with the Taysom Hill package as it stands right now. There have been too many times where I feel like Taysom is being prioritized over Tyler Shuck, and that should never be the case. It's simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
All right, Lance, go back to the buffet, man. It's your time to eat now.
I 100% agree with that. And I guess I'm going to ask your same question. Why? This is like, I just don't understand it. I like watching the game. I'm like, what are they doing? Then the very next play, what are they doing? Then the very next play, they just did that again. What is happening? Time and time again. Now, if it's working, fine. We're having a whole different conversation, right? Yes. Taysom is the hero. They couldn't stop Taysom Hill. But how many times does it need to fail for you to be like, you know what? Maybe we probably shouldn't run that one back. Maybe we should give the guy that we're trying to evaluate a few more opportunities down here to make a play.
Yeah. All right. At the risk of sounding too repetitive, I have something that I want to do when we come back while still talking about the offense. Because I think at this point, the offense is the biggest storyline from this game right now. We'll get into a little bit of the defense, but I think mostly the defense played all right outside of a couple plays. We'll talk a little bit of defense, but I want to stick with the offense when we come back because there's something I want to do real quick. We'll be right back. The NFL and NBA seasons are in full swing, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next point to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. In honor of Jameis Winston playing football again today, doing awesome, I keep looking at his passing yards, and I should have looked at his receiving touchdowns because that man was out there making plays. I miss you, Jameis. I missed you today especially. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up, play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Boom.
Boom.
All right, guys. I want to get into this because, all right, I'll just do it. I'm going to go through all of their drives, see when they got to the red zone, and see what happened from there. The first time they got to there, it was the first quarter. It was the Mason Tipton touchdown. Shout out to Mason Tipton. He looked fast. He looked like a play today. He looked like a player. Mm-hmm. All right. Direct snap to Taysom Hill for no gain. Next play, Tyler Shuck sacked for a loss of 7 yards. Tyler Shuck passed short left to Alvin Kamara for 2 yards.
Didn't like that, by the way.
Missed field goal.
Didn't like that. I mentioned it earlier. I want to say it again. Didn't like it. I'm not going to elaborate. Okay. Please continue.
All right. They didn't get to the red zone on the next drive. Then the next drive was the missed field goal from the 30 of Blake Grupe. Back-to-back missed field goals. Brutal. That's when the game really felt like it was over. All right, so they get to the red zone. First play, Tyler Shuck sacked. Then it was the 12-yard pass interference. They get some free yards. Tyler Shuck to the right guard for 3 yards. Taysom Hill to the right guard for 3 yards. Tyler Shuck to the scramble left for 1 yard. Incomplete pass by Taysom Hill. All of that was within the 10-yard line. Brutal stuff. Then the next drive, they get into the red zone off of a DPI from AJ Terrell. Taysom Hill for 2 yards up the middle. Then a false start by Ruiz. Then there's the best red zone play they called all day. The Chris Olave over the middle for 16 yards. Mm-hmm. Then Taysom Hill to the right guard for no gain. Taysom Hill to the right tackle for 2 yards. Tyler Shuck to the left end for 4 yards. Tyler Shuck, no gain up the middle. And then it was the penalty, the intentional grounding pass. Yeah.
I didn't like that call.
And then Blake Grupe made a field goal. And then the last one, they didn't get in, and then they didn't get in. They didn't get into the red zone again. But yeah, awful play game management and play calling. And then the last thing on the offense, the offensive line was bad today. Asim Richards tagged with 5 pressures allowed. Dylan Radins with 2. Cesar Ruiz with 3. Kelvin Banks with 2. Luke Fortner with 1. We talked way back after the draft that the Falcons getting James Pierce and Jalen Walker was going to be brutal for the Saints because of their weak offensive line, and they were worth 2.5 sacks in this game combined total. So brutal, not good, nothing good about that.
I want to bring this back though to something you said. I want to ask both of you, how did you feel because the play ended up basically not happening? How did y'all feel when you saw Taysom Hill at shotgun after the QB sneak and before the ball goes over his head and you scramble. So before any of that, what was you guys' thought process?
I don't think I've been excited to see Taysom Hill at all this season, and it hurts me brutally because he's one of my favorite Saints players of all time. Don't get us wrong. I think everyone here loves Taysom Hill, and we're thinking very, very highly of him. It's just I think the time has come where he's a little bit past where the Saints need him to be. He's not a Kellen Moore guy. Kellen Moore feels like he needs to use him and get the most out of him because the old staff did, I guess. They are paying him. So, but it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. I don't think that Taysom Hill should be on the team next year.
He doesn't fit the timeline. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to have a 35-year-old overpaid tight end, quarterback, running back
joker, I think,
having so many touches in a game when you've got other guys that you should be evaluating who are more than capable of handling their job, not Taysom handling their job.
Yeah. I will be interested to see if AK can't go next week. What does the running attack look like? Not in the sense of how successful that it is, but how is it divided? Because like I said earlier, I feel like Kellen treats Taysom like the secondary rushing threat. But if Alvin doesn't practice, if you know Alvin's not playing, I would like to think that you get a much heavier dosage of Devin Neal. I don't know if that's a safe assumption or just a hope, but I would like to see it because it makes the most sense. He's a what, Lance? Running back. He's the guy who gets paid to do what? Run the football. So I would like to think that if Alvin can't go, you see a heavier dosage of Devin Neal, who his stats don't look as good as the eye test looked. And I'm going to base it off the eye test because I felt the same way about Kendre Miller for years when he was on the field. It never felt like those stats matched what I saw. Things looked a little bit more difficult for him, and it felt like he was making the most out of a situation. And that's what it felt like with Devin Neal today. He did most of his damage in the receiving game, where he was at a time, I think late or midway through the fourth quarter. I think he was a leading receiver. He had 48 yards. Now, that says more about how much yards you had, but it also speaks volumes to what he was able to do out of the backfield, where he did a great job running away from some Atlanta defenders, really making something out of nothing at times. I just thought that he's been impressive to me. I just want to see more because I think the Saints need a running back, but I want to see more.
You don't get the chance to have a nice day on the stat sheet if they don't give you the chance to. Is the whole thing. So probably should have had a touchdown in there. But all right, let's talk a little bit about the defense of it. Did anything stand out to y'all on the defensive side of the football?
Giving up way too many big plays.
Yeah.
Because I would say outside of the couple big plays that they gave up, they played a pretty strong game. They had some sacks. They created a turnover. They had Kirk Cousins, at least for the first half of the game, looking really, really uncomfortable. They had the running game kind of bottled up early in the game. But as the game wears on and your offense isn't able to score points, that's going to have a little bit of an impact on your defense coming on the field again. Like, dang, man, these dudes can't score. Like, they didn't score again. Now we're right back out here. We had them backed up on their intentional grounding call, which could have been suspect or not. Very next play, swing pass to Bijan Robinson, 33-yard gain for a first down, and I believe 2 plays later, touchdown to Darnell Mooney. Like, you can't give up those chunk plays. You just can't, especially on a team where the offense can't score. Like, you definitely can't give up those big plays because when they're scoring easy, it's just so much harder for you to win because your offense isn't able to score at all. So it just makes it so much tougher on the defense. Yeah, I don't know. I like the pass rush that we saw early in the game, it faded. Like where was that later in the game? We haven't seen very much, if any, interior pass rush in the last couple of weeks. It's kind of strange to me. It's been all outside pass rush. Carl Granderson, like where has he been? Like the last several weeks of the season. I can't even remember the last time he had a sack. Like these guys, the defense is going to have to carry this team. If there's any hope of winning any games down the stretch, it's going to have to be led by the defense. They're going to have to get back to turning over the football more. One turnover is not going to be enough. I understand we got a score on that one turnover, but I don't know. Kool-Aid's got to play better. We need good Kool-Aid consistently. We can't have good Kool-Aid, not so good Kool-Aid. We can't have good Kool-Aid, then not so good Kool-Aid. Like, you want to be that number one guy, you want to be that shutdown, lockdown corner, then play like it.
It's kind of like whenever whenever your mom would make Kool-Aid, it would be delicious, and you try to make it on your own, and the consistency is up a little bit. It doesn't taste right. It's kind of like that. You don't really know what you're gonna get. But yeah, he has to be better because, it would be nice to not have to invest too much into the secondary this season. But to do that, you need him and Quincy Riley to look like starters on the defensive side of the ball, and they don't look like it always. Especially Kool-Aid year 2, I think, has to be better and more consistent than he is right now.
Real quick, Dylan, I'm gonna talk for a second, but can you look up how many plays that Riley played? I don't remember seeing. Right,
well, it wasn't going to be a lot because Atlanta stayed in 13 personnel.
Yeah.
So if you've got 3 tight ends on the field, which obviously 1 running back and 3 tight ends, you can't have your nickel personnel on the field or they'll run the ball down your throat. You're just too small at that point. So you're going to have your base defense or heavy, which they didn't go heavy too much, but they were in base defense a whole lot, which keeps Quincy Riley off the field because he comes in the passing sets or third downs or the nickel personnel groupings on offense where they've got 3 receivers on the field. But, I think Alante is so good on the inside at times can kind of get exposed some on the outside, like the early touchdown pass that Kirk Cousins threw to David Sills. Alante was playing outside leverage. Sills literally just ran up, gave him a tiny little shoulder fake, and the ball was right on him. But I mean, like, that is a play that a starting outside corner's got to be able to make. At least be there to contest the catch. I mean, like, you can't give up that. I mean, that looked like routes on air to me. That looked like a practice rep with no defense out there. I mean, it should never look like that. Like, it's Quincy Riley needs to play more. I just don't think Kellen wants to ruffle feathers and say, hey, Quincy's the starter. When the other team is in nickel personnel, then Alante comes in and plays the slot. I just don't think he wants to do that for whatever reason, but he probably should think about it because the reality is Quincy needs those reps, and Quincy's going to be your starting outside corner next season. He's got to start getting those reps now. That's just how I feel.
No, that's fair. I think that's fair.
And to your point of, like, maybe Kellen feeling like he has to, or Brandon Staley feeling like they have to play Alante out there. I mean, they might if they want him on the team next year, which they clearly do. Because if you because Alante, wants boundary money if he's not playing.
That's why Alante's lead. Like, I'm sorry, Alante's walking this offseason. If someone's going to give him boundary money, I think he's walking. I think he's gone. Because you're right. You are so right. I think he wants boundary money. And if Indianapolis is going to trade for him for boundary, then maybe someone else sees him as a boundary corner too. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dylan, but go ahead.
No, You're good. But Lance, you talked a little bit earlier ago about you don't know when the last time Carl Granderson had a sack. It was week 4. Mm-hmm. And the last time that he generated more than 2 pressures in a single game was week 2. That is unacceptable.
That's bad.
Unacceptable from a starting pass rusher. Just really, really bad.
And to add on that, he's only had 5 tackles in the last 4 games. So he's not delivering pressure. He's not getting sacks. He's really not been involved in the game. You just haven't seen him a lot. And that's an issue. I think it's tough. I think you definitely have to invest in that position this offseason, and we'll see what happens with Granderson moving forward. But the defense, like Lance said, just too many untimely big plays. You weren't able to get pressure consistently. It felt like it was really hot at the beginning. You had some sacks. You had the Justin Reed touchdown. It felt like, okay, things are turning around. Little did we know that Justin Reed would be responsible for 70% of the Saints' points on Sunday. But that tells you everything you need to know. I feel like scoring that touchdown cancels out some of the big plays if the offense is able to play up. Like, I think even then it felt like they were playing with such a small margin of error. It doesn't literally cancel out the big plays, but it feels like the impact of it is different if you have an offense that's moving the ball. It feels like you can actually swing the tide if the offense is able to do some things. And just offensively, they didn't take advantage of the early momentum that the Saints defense had. They had momentum getting down there, missed field goals. The defense had some sacks. They had a touchdown of their own, and it just felt like none of that was taken advantage of. And that was one of the bigger issues in today's game.
Yeah, I want to just circle back to the Carl Granderson thing. Like I'm starting to wonder, especially after hearing those numbers or those stats that you had, Dylan, like, is this even a good fit defensively? Right. I mean, Carl Granderson had his greatest success in this league in a 4-3 defense, right? That Dennis Allen hand in the dirt, going and being able to play both the pass and the run. It's weird that he's not making plays the way that he used to. So, which it could be a fit issue. It could be a health issue. We don't necessarily always know what's going on with the guy's health, whether they're talking about it or not. But I think for this defense to be better, there's going to have to be a better play up front, more consistent pass rush, and guys who are highly compensated need to start playing as such. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go a little bit more positive in the next segment with some players of the game. If you can find a couple, I think there are a couple of players worth that deserve a shout out that we haven't gotten to yet. But we'll get up to that coming up next. All right, closing it out today. Let's get into our players of the game. I'm gonna go ahead and let's go with Lance to start.
Mason Tipton. We've been calling for more Mason Tipton the entire season. We felt like this would be a game that he would be able to get some more touches. And was it just me, or was he not in the game as a returner, a kick returner late? Like I would be interested to see if we look back, if he was the returner on the other side of the field when who's my man that had the returns? When Pettis had the rest of the returns, like maybe Atlanta said, okay, don't kick it to 15, kick it to 11. But anyways, we've been calling for more. Mason Tipton delivered. He had that long return. I would love to get with him on making the kicker miss a little more easily. I feel like if he would have taken maybe two more steps toward the inside of the field, the kicker would have really thought that he was going to try to cut back across the field, and he could have literally just run right past him. But I'm not going to knock him. I at one time in my career against the Kansas City Chiefs in the 2006 fourth preseason game had a 96-yard punt return that I did not score a touchdown on. So I can't talk too much stuff about him not house calling that. But a couple touches on offense, I think there should be more. Answer the call, I think, as maybe not this is our future number 2 wide receiver, but a guy that is capable of complementing the other pieces that you have, a guy that good things happen when you get the ball into his hands, and a guy that's been patiently waiting to have opportunity the way that he had some today in this game. So I would say that of all the guys today, he's the one that stood out to me the most and had the best day on offense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It feels good because it was kind of starting to feel like I think I called him Travin Doral the other day, a guy who's in practice camp. Fans love, want to see more of him, and then just never really gets that opportunity. But this is a game we figured it might have to happen with Brandon Cooks leaving and Rashid Shaheed getting traded, and their refusal to use Devon Vele. It feels like maybe they'll go to Mason Tipton. We'll see a little bit more of Devon Vele today, but yeah, it was good to see Mason Tipton get the opportunity, and I want to see him used a lot more. I've talked a lot about this team just needing to utilize more speed in the open space, and that's all. He looks fast. Whenever he catches a lane, he is hard to catch. It's fun to watch. It's something that it feels like no one else is really bringing right now. Obviously, Olave is fast, but they don't really use him like that. All right, Darian, who you got?
I'm going to go with Justin Reed, the leading scorer on the team. So
finally.
Yeah. It's funny is he had made a crack at the Falcons this week, and I was just thinking to myself, maybe this is the week that he has his moment. It felt that he hadn't had a splash moment all year. So it wasn't so super high. It wasn't super down. He was just kind of there for most of the season. But it felt like this was the week that he would have a splash. And he did. I didn't think it'd be a pick six. I thought maybe it'd be a pass deflection, a breakup on a third down or something like that. But Justin Reed caught the ball. He returned it for a touchdown. And if there was anything that the previous minutes of action had taught us, it was that he needed to score that touchdown if the Saints were going to score a touchdown. So I was very proud to see that. He's going to be my player of the game. It's a moment, so it's not a lot to talk about there, but it was the highest moment of the game. It was, you have the kickoff return that Lance pointed out, and I'm going to go with the touchdown return that Reed had.
Something I like about Justin Reed that his gone all season back to the preseason, it's that he is super chippy and he loves to talk very clearly on the field. And I feel like that is something that could be very useful for a defense whenever they're playing, better football or more intense football, more intense games. But it's still fun it's always fun to see. We've been talking a lot over the Pelicans about like Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears getting into fights after every game. It feels like, and just that aggression. It's good to see because people, and I think it's something we've talked a lot about, especially the defense side. Like this team still cares. They're still trying. It's just that the game plans don't really seem to match up. All right, I think I'm gonna pull a John. I'm gonna go with 2. Because there's 2 players who I think had big moments, but they didn't play enough to really get player of the game. But I want to see the board. And that is
You're going with 2? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Well, John's not here, so
John's not here.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. I'm going with 2.
Why I'm saying timeout.
Yes,
Dylan,
I do.
Make sure you tell your friend. I mean, the fan.
Oh yeah, so, Caleb. I know that John's not here. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to do it just because. Can I be real? We have 9 minutes left to go.
Facts.
We have 9 minutes left to go. I'm gonna go with Isaiah Stallbird.
Yes.
And Danny Stutzman, 2 guys that I think we have to talk about. Danny Stutzman had that big pressure that led to the Justin Reed touchdown. So that was a team effort play in total. Shout out to Justin Reed for converting and then bringing it back. But you don't have that interception without Danny Stutzman forcing the pressure. That's something really important to see right now because you're not going to always have Demario Davis. It's something we've said, something that we've said a lot. And you need someone that can not take over because you can't really take over Demario Davis. He's one of the best linebackers we've seen in a long time. But someone to supplement his ability to rush the passer. Pete Werner has never really done that in his career. That's not his tool set. That's not his game. So it's good to see Danny Stutzman do that. And then, of course, Ross joined just in time for me to say his favorite name ever, Isaiah Stallbird, with that crazy jumping sack. That was awesome. So shout out to him. Shout out to both of them making an impact. Ross, give us your quick thoughts on this game.
Yeah, look, here's the thing that I'll say right off the bat is that the way to improve a football team is not strictly through vibes and optimism. You have to actually figure out a way to get things to work on the offensive side of the football. In particular, I thought the defense played extremely well, especially early on in the game, or I should say specifically early on in the game. But an inability to get anything going on offense when you have an offensive genius as your head coach is a shockingly alarming sign. And so while it's great that the Saints continue to be super optimistic about their situation and continue to say, like, yeah, we know exactly what it is that we need to fix, until those things actually get fixed, it's going to be really hard to get people to buy what you're selling. And I think that that's a really kind of detrimental place that this organization is stuck in right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would completely agree. We were talking about like what you need to do to actually like build onto a rebuild, how to start that. We're talking about that mostly with like the accountability of like Blake Grupe now dropping below 70% on his field goals for the season, like something that's got to change. Yeah. We were talking about, even like Carl Granderson is someone who has not made an impact in weeks. In weeks, it has felt like months. Actually, yeah.
And he's the guy that has observed in himself. This was a couple of years ago during, I think, training camp. He talked about how he has a habit throughout his career of starting hot and finishing well, but kind of having this dip in the middle of the season. And even since identifying that out loud, which, I mean, you can say it out loud all you want. Again, you can exist on vibes and optimism all that you want until you're actually performing. It doesn't matter. But it's happening, or it has happened again here this season when it comes to Granderson in particular. So just to add that context, like, this is effectively what we typically see from him, or have seen from him throughout his career so far.
Yeah. And then we were in the middle of our players of the game. I went with Isaiah Silver, Danny Stutzman. Lance went with Mason Tipton, and Darian went with Justin Reed. Who do you got to add to that?
No. No, I'd quickly highlight. It didn't really happen on the ground for him, but I'd quickly highlight Devin Neal as well. Just, look, a big part of what you want to see, or a big part of what you lose when Alvin Kamara is off the field for you, is not just what he can do out of the backfield as a rusher, but what he can do out of the backfield as a receiver. And that wasn't really a big part of what Devin Neal was asked to do at Kansas. And he looked very comfortable in that situation here this year. In this game this year. Goodness. In this game. And so just him getting a little bit more, having a lot more asked of him in this game, and him responding, I think I'd highlight him too.
Yeah, that was probably the guy. I thought if I went last, someone would have already picked Justin Reed for the moment, and that probably been the direction that I would have went because of the receiving. It just felt like, I think Lance said it earlier. It felt like good things happened when he touched the ball, and that's the way that I would describe Devin Neal.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So of course, when those good things happen, you have to follow it up with Taysom Hill up the middle for no gain.
Hey, Ross, I'm curious
Yeah.
if Kellen spoke specifically about the plan for Taysom Hill after the game.
Yeah, we asked him about it, and he, it's kind of that same thing that's always been the Taysom Hill factor of, like, yeah, we feel really good about what it is that he can do in some of those game situations and things like that. So we wanted to lean on him. I asked him more specifically about, like, okay, yeah, you take Tyler Shuck off the field in the red zone and put Taysom Hill in the run, but why take Tyler Shuck off of the field in the red zone and then put Taysom Hill in to throw the football? And then it was with him, we run a lot, so we thought it would be a good idea. We thought we had an opportunity to maybe throw there. So it's a lot of vibes, man. Like, a lot of it is just like trying to roll on vibes. Like, oh, Taysom's usually good at this. Let's have him do it. But it doesn't feel intentional enough to be successful. And I don't know that they've figured it out. And I'll be honest, I don't know that Kellen Moore has figured that out for himself either. Like, I think he's failed as a play caller so far in the red zone in particular. That's been a place where they've struggled quite a bit. And so I think that that's something that there's not a clear enough answer in terms of what's being shared publicly, but I'm really curious to see what they're going to change, because it's clear that it doesn't work and they've got to figure out something else there.
And Ross, I have one more question.
There's been zero creativity. That's the problem.
Right.
You're not gonna line up with backups and be great at Taysom Hill's package. Just not. Pause.
Right. Play. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey,
yo.
Ross, what was the vibe like in the Superdome? Because for the Pelicans game last night, it was all Atlanta fans. They were screaming ATL. They were screaming our house. They really took over. It felt like an Atlanta home game.
Yeah, honestly, I thought that the Saints fans showed up in this game, especially early. The 3rd and 3 sack with it was like a little bit over 7 minutes or something left in the game. That was the point where you saw a lot of Saints fans start to say, all right, I'm starting my drive home. And you saw everybody kind of file out at that point. But I really do commend Saints fans for showing up for this game, for a 2-8 football team that was riding really high after beating the Carolina Panthers, and for making noise. I mean, the fans were impactful early on in this game. You saw a couple of false starts end up factoring in and things like that, especially when the defense kind of started off as hot as they did. The crowd responded. And so I commend the fan base for showing up for a team that I don't think anybody would blame them not showing up for, right? Like, it wouldn't be surprising. And so to see them show up in a rivalry game in that fashion, I thought was really cool.
All right. Well, I got to go watch Wicked. So thanks for listening to the Saints Squad show. Check out me, Ross, John, and Lance, and Darian, and our socials for the latest. We'll be right back at this spot on Wednesday, ready to talk more New Orleans Saints football. preview the rest of the season. It's maybe they'll win another game at some point. They got on the road against the Dolphins next week, I believe.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to win that, but they are indeed on the road against the Dolphins.
They are on the road against the Dolphins.
Yeah,
all right, and for your second listen of the day, don't listen to Ross. Actually, do listen to Ross. But come over and check out Locked On Pelicans. I just took over for Jake for the next 3 weeks. First episode dropping in 20 minutes. So let's have some fun over there. Talk to y'all soon, and we'll see y'all on Wednesday.